We've almost made it to the end, everyone, and that means we're covering our last text, A Raisin in the Sun. I've posted separate videos about the author's life and the history of the time, but I want to introduce you to a few main themes for you to think about as you read. First is the idea of intersectionality. This has actually become an increasingly discussed topic in our own times, and it's basically the idea that our identities comprise numerous things such as race, economic status, and gender. Often, when we discuss things like racism, misogyny, or poverty, we tend to look at them in isolation. Intersectionality points out that in real life, these things are all connected and influence the ways that we interact with the world. Hainsbury's play actively looks at this issue as each of the characters try to navigate the ways that their race, economic status, and gender expectations affect them. Walter Younger is trying to prove that he is a man, which he sees as being the head of the household and main provider, while facing racial prejudice and economic hardships that prevent him from achieving his vision of the American dream. Ruth is a quintessential wife and mother, the homemaker who takes care of everyone else, who is faced with a difficult choice over how to best care for her family with the threat of poverty hanging over them. Lena, or Mama, is the matriarch trying to build a future for her grandson while grappling with the changing face of racism, as lynch mobs are replaced by polite men advocating for segregationist policies that will keep her and her family from bettering their lives. And beneath is a young woman who, against all odds, is trying to become a doctor despite her family's expectations that she marry, and who is grappling with an identity both as an American and as a woman of African descent. The pieces of their identities cannot be separated, as each character tries to figure out who they are and how to succeed in the world. The text also brings in the idea of assimilation, taking on the characteristics of the majority society and leaving your own culture behind. For some immigrants, this is a choice. They assimilate because they want to fit in or because it is unsafe for them to continue practicing their own culture. For others, Native Americans and African Americans particularly, assimilation was forced. They were given no choice but to conform to white culture or risk punishment up to death. Beneatha in particular struggles with this when one of her suitors, who's from Nigeria, introduces her to his native culture and points out that she has conformed to the expectations of white culture in ways such as straightening her hair to meet white beauty standards, even as she tries to learn more about her African heritage that was denied her. Finally, a major theme of the play is the American dream. In the poem at the beginning, Langston Hughes asks, "What happens to a dream deferred?" The dream he's talking about is the American dream, that idea that no matter who you are or where you come from, you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, work hard, and succeed. It is a promise made to Americans that is too often, especially for minorities, not a promise that is actually kept. It's the same idea MLK was talking about when he said that the nation had bounced the check written to African Americans. Hainsbury took the title of the play from this poem, and you can see its ideas enacted, especially in the character of Walter. The 1950s were all about the dream of a white picket fence and 2.5 kids in the suburbs, but the asterisk next to that, as Hainsbury's own family found out, was whites only. As you read, consider these themes and also consider how these compare to those we saw in our other plays. What are the questions that these dramatists are trying to answer on the stage? You have one final discussion board this week, as well as your writing project if you haven't submitted that yet. Also, don't forget to submit your journals. You should have 10 entries overall, including this final week's. Next week, a study guide will be posted so you know which terms, texts, and authors that you need to know for your final exam. But if you want to start reviewing, the course glossary in your top module has a list of all of the terms that you need to know. You will also need to be familiar with the author's main characters, plots, and major themes of the stories that we read at the beginning of the term. I'll post more detailed instructions in next week's video, but as always, if you have any questions, let me know.